For weeks, speculation swirled through fan communities, media outlets, and entertainment circles alike. There was something curious about Darra and Jung Il-woo, a mystery that unfolded slowly and without warning. Were they dating? Collaborating? Or was there something deeper, less visible, that connected these two celebrated stars? When Darra finally broke her silence, it wasn't through a cryptic tweet or a flashy press release. It was during a quiet, emotionally charged interview where her vulnerability turned into a revelation. Her words were neither dramatic nor rehearsed, they came from a place of deep reflection. "I can't stay quiet anymore," she said, "not because of scandal or gossip, but because there's a story that deserves to be told." Jung Il-woo helped me find myself again. To understand the gravity of that statement, one has to go back to a time when Darra was more absent than present in the public eye. Post-2001, the once fiery performer seemed to recede into the background, while others surged forward with solo debuts, dramas, and media engagements. Darra moved more carefully, more quietly. Publicly, it looked like a deliberate career choice. Privately, it was something else entirely. "There was a time I couldn't even look at myself in the mirror without doubt creeping in," she said. "I kept wondering, what am I without the music? Without the group?" The transition from idol to independent artist is never easy, but Darra's struggle ran deeper. She wasn't just navigating career shifts, she was facing something far more personal, a crisis of identity, a loss of self-worth, and a disconnection from the passion that had once fueled her. She stopped singing, stopped writing. The stage lights that once energized her now felt like a spotlight on everything she thought she lacked. Even simple moments, listening to music, seeing old performances, hearing fans shout her name, became emotionally loaded. Reminders of a version of herself she feared had disappeared. It wasn't burnout. It was grief, Darra explained. "I was grieving the part of me that I thought I'd never get back." Enter Jung Il-woo, known for his roles in hit dramas and his steady, introspective demeanor. Il-woo was not someone Darra initially leaned on. Their paths had crossed at events, shows, and mutual projects, but the relationship had never gone beyond polite industry exchanges. That changed with one late-night conversation. "He messaged me out of nowhere after watching an old clip of mine," Darra recalled. "He just said, 'You were incredible. Are you okay these days?' And something about that question, so simple, so genuine, broke me open." They began talking. First sporadically, then frequently. What began as casual exchanges about music and work evolved into hours-long conversations about life, fear, and purpose. Jung Il-woo never pressured her to return to entertainment. Instead, he offered his presence, his empathy, an unwavering belief in her. "He has this gift," Darra said. "He listens in a way that makes you feel like your words matter, not because you're famous or important, but because you're human." Their conversations began to spark something in her. She started to journal again. She revisited old song drafts. She spent hours listening to the music that once gave her joy, not to perform but to remember. Jung Il-woo encouraged her to take it slow, to reclaim herself not as a public figure, but as a person. One night, after Darra confessed that she felt invisible in a world that once celebrated her, Jung Il-woo told her something that would stay with her forever. "You were born for the stage. The world hasn't forgotten you. Don't you forget yourself." That phrase became her anchor. Over the next few months, Jung Il-woo continued to support her quietly. He connected her with a vocal coach who specialized in emotional rehabilitation. He recommended books, music, art that had helped him through his own dark times. Sometimes, he sent nothing but a message, "Still cheering for you." Their bond was not built on grand gestures or media moments. It was built on consistency, honesty, and trust. While the world speculated about their relationship, I held on to a truth much more profound. "There were days when I couldn't even step outside," she said. "But knowing he was in my corner gave me a strength I didn't think I still had." Eventually, she began to entertain the idea of returning. She agreed to a small appearance on a variety show. It wasn't a comeback, it was a toe in the water. The night before filming, anxiety surged through her like a tidal wave. She texted Jung Il-woo, doubting her decision. His reply came instantly: "Don't have to prove anything, just show up as yourself. It's already enough." The next day, she walked onto the set with trembling hands but a resolute heart. She laughed, she shared, and for the first time in a long while, felt like herself again. That small appearance led to more. Slowly, opportunities returned, but more importantly, so did her joy. And with that joy came the desire to finally speak. The moment Dara chose to open up to the world, she knew she was stepping into a storm. The speculation, the assumptions, the headlines, all of it would follow. But this time, she wasn't afraid. This time, she had something stronger than fear. The truth. "I've been silent for too long," she began, "not because I was hiding something, but because I didn't yet know how to say it. Jung helped me see myself clearly again, and that's a gift I can't keep to myself." What she shared was not a love story in the traditional sense. It was a story of rescue, not by a prince or a partner, but by a person who cared enough to see beyond the image, to the human being underneath. It was about the power of being believed in, at a time when self-belief had vanished. As Dara returned to the spotlight in incremental steps, she did so with a quiet intensity. Performances, though limited, carried an emotional resonance that hadn't been present before. She wasn't just performing, she was telling a story, and fans could feel it. Her comeback project, a short digital album titled Still Here, was released with little promotion but quickly soared on streaming platforms. The songs weren't flashy, they were raw, introspective, and brimming with gratitude. One track, Letters I Never Sent, was particularly poignant. Fans immediately speculated that it was about Jung. Asked directly in an interview, Dara smiled softly. "Some people deserve their own songs," she said, "even if they never asked for them." Her vulnerability resonated. For fans who had watched her evolve from a vibrant K-pop princess to a subdued, almost invisible figure, Rebirth felt personal. They celebrated not just the artist's return, the survival of the woman behind the spotlight. The ripple effects extended far beyond her fandom. Mental health conversations surged across Korean media. Industry peers publicly praised Dara's courage. Behind the scenes, other artists reached out to her, sharing their own battles with burnout and disillusionment. Dara began volunteering with organizations focused on creative mental health. In interviews, she emphasized the importance of empathy and emotional support, especially in industries that prize perfection over authenticity. "We're all taught to push through," she said. "Sometimes strength looks like reaching out, and healing often begins with being heard." Through it all, Jung remained quiet. He offered no public statements, no interviews. Friends close to him said he didn't want the attention. For him, supporting Dara was never about being seen. Is about doing the right thing. Dara addressed this directly. Doesn't like praise. He gets awkward when people compliment him, but I needed the world to know, because in a moment when I felt like nothing, he treated me like I was everything. Their bond, as she described it, defied easy labels. It wasn't romantic, but it was deeply intimate. It wasn't strategic. It changed the course of her life. It wasn't for the cameras, but it ended up being seen by millions. "We share silence well," she said. "Sometimes we sit for hours and barely speak, and in that silence, I feel seen. That's rare." At a recent awards show, Dara and Jung were seen sitting at the same table. Cameras captured a brief exchange. He leaned in and whispered something to her, and she smiled with unmistakable warmth. It was a simple moment. Fans around the world felt its weight. The show ended, and as attendees exited, Dara paused for photos. She was radiant, confident, grounded. As she turned to leave, a reporter shouted, "Dara, do you want people to remember about your journey?" She paused. "I almost didn't come back," she said, "but someone reminded me that I mattered. And now, want to remind others." That mission now extends beyond music. Dara is reportedly working on a memoir, co-authoring it with a mental health expert. The book will blend her personal story with resources and reflections meant to help readers navigate their own struggles. She has also been invited to speak at youth mental health forums and is in talks to create a podcast focused on healing through creativity. Every move she makes now is purposeful. Every word she shares is meant to help others feel less alone. It took me years to realize that my worth isn't tied to applause, Dara wrote in a recent blog post. Now, I sing for the silence, for those who are still finding their way back. As for Jung Il-woo, he continues his acting career with grace and humility. Those close to both stars confirmed they remain close friends. When asked recently about Darra in a rare off-the-record comment, he reportedly said, "She's stronger than she knows. Just helped her remember." In the end, Darra's story isn't just about comeback, it's about connection, about how, sometimes, the most meaningful relationships are the ones that happen offstage, the ones rooted not in fame or romance, but in shared humanity. And perhaps that's why her confession matters, because in a world so often obsessed with performance, it is the quiet acts of care that leave the most lasting mark. Darra stands today not as a symbol of perfection, but as proof that with the right words, the right support, and the right moment, even the most fragile flame can burn bright again. Isn't just back. She's reborn. And it all began with someone who refused to let her